Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, he served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
Our top focus on beyond at this hour. Ukraine has launched one of its widest waves of long-range drone and artillery attacks on Russian territory, killing at least 8 people and striking targets hundreds of kilometers from the front line, according to Russian authorities. Belgorod, Saratov and Udmurtia regions in Russia had reported the deadliest incidents. 3 people were killed in shelling in Belgorod near the Ukrainian border, while 2 others died after a drone strike hit a residential building in the Saratov region. In Russia's Udmurtia region, more than 1,000 kilometers from the battlefield, 3 people were killed when a drone struck a civilian vehicle. Russian authorities also reported that Ukrainian drones targeted a wild berries warehouse in Samara region, which is 800 kilometers from Ukraine's forward positions, triggering a fire. No casualties were reported from the strike in the warehouse. Meanwhile, Moscow said that its air defense systems has intercepted 635 Ukrainian drones overnight and described it as one of the largest drone attacks carried out by Ukraine in recent months. Ukraine has increasingly expanded its long-range strikes on Russian military, energy and economic infrastructure. Ukrainian authorities state that such strikes are a legitimate response to continued Russian aggression. Kyiv maintains that the continued strikes will increase pressure on Moscow to return to negotiations. But these escalations come as diplomatic efforts show tentative signs of revival. US President Donald Trump recently reversed course and he approved a Patriot air defense manufacturing license for Ukraine. Meanwhile, US Secretary of State Marco Rubio told a leading American news network that Washington is actively exploring opportunities to restart peace talks between Russia and Ukraine, even as fighting on the ground continues unabated.
Efforts over the next few weeks to see if we can't restart talks between the two sides and bring this war to an end. But we also understand that both sides have some pretty strong red lines, and until we can bring those red lines a little closer together, we're not going to be there yet. But we're ready to go, and the president's told his team, if you see an opportunity to be a force that brings about some momentum behind peace talks, let's do it.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview 2 and our X Spaces simulcast. Well, it's more War Monday, and war is still unpredictable. Getting to peace? Well, people are trying. Right now, it looks a whole lot like more war. You just saw Ukraine hit a key strategic Russian bomber base. I think it's called Ingalls 2. It's got Bears and Blackjack bombers there, which are used to drop cruise missiles on Ukraine. A direct strike at the heart of Moscow's long-range air power. It's bold, it's risky, and it's a reminder that this conflict can escalate in a heartbeat. President Trump canceled the planned weekend strikes on Iran, citing diplomacy. Is this a genuine off-ramp or just a pause while the region keeps boiling over because Israel is having to conduct fresh self-defense strikes in Lebanon? Of course, there's a ceasefire there, supposedly, but Hezbollah doesn't really acknowledge that ceasefire between Israel and the Lebanese government. What else do we got here? We've also got the drone attack on a U.S. floating gas storage facility in Egypt, and that has put the Suez Canal itself under threat. The entire map looks like it's powder keg. Every fuse is lit from Southwest Asia to Moscow. And to break all this down with no spin and no filter is a man who's been there and here before, retired special ops pilot, CDM president and CEO, patriot and fearless truth teller, Todd Wood, who just got back from Lebanon, I believe. Todd, welcome back.
Oh, Rob, thanks for having me on. Really appreciate it.
It's just like, live TV, folks, is like ducks on a pond, where you see Todd and I nice and calm here. We're both aviator background, but there's been some fierce peddling going on because of my buffoonery this morning. I appreciate you making it, man. All right, so let's start with Ukraine. Your team and you cover this, I think, better than any media outlet that's out there. So what are they using? This air base is like 1,000 kilometers out past the Urals, right? Ural mountain range, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the issue is they're using technology that's being supplied to them by NATO, essentially. I don't know if the U.S. is involved or not, but there's definitely some high-end technology, long-range strike technology being provided to the Ukrainians. I find that very disturbing. I'm just going to be blunt with you. I want this war to end. Mm-hmm. I've been screaming for it for 5 years. It needs to end because you saw this week, Ukraine is trying to combine the Iran and Russian wars because that's a way for them to keep in business. Mm-hmm. And, they struck a Russian tanker in the Caspian Sea and, apologize for it. But then there's other stuff going on. They want to combine these wars because they see that as a way to continue the spigot for weapons flow, for support. I happen to know, because I have some sources inside, that President Trump does not want that to happen. He wants the Ukraine war to end. He's trying to find a way to end it. I think he has to be bolder myself, but, who am I to give the directions to the president? But yeah. I would just say we're done with it. And NATO, you have it, and that's it. And if Russia attacks you, we're not going to support you as an Article 5 because you're providing weapons that are attacking Moscow and very strategic targets inside the Russian Federation. So I'm not pro-Russian, pro-Ukrainian. I'm pro-peace, pro-humanity, pro-Christian. These are two Christian nations fighting each other. It needs to end. And that's my story, and I'm sticking to it, Rob.
Yeah, I think you and I are on the same page the president is on. He's always said, hey, this war wouldn't have started had I still been president. Yeah. Because he would have got them together and worked things out. And just because they're in a war doesn't mean we should be contributing any more to it. Do you think that they warned us about the Caspian Sea strikes?
I don't know. I don't know what's going on. I know the MI6 in the UK are very involved in this and are driving this. So whether they warned the US, I don't know. I mean, Trump is putting out a lot of, both sides of the coin, if you will. Yeah. I think intentional ambiguity, but the fact is that this could, as you mentioned, seriously escalate very easily because all of this thought that we're going to wear the Russians down and the population will overthrow Putin. The exact opposite is happening.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I wanted to ask you because I keep hearing it in the American media from the the neocons. I have to use that phrase because it's easy to know who they are. Even though I've been called one before, I'm not. But the neocon talking heads, former generals usually, are out there. They've all of a sudden started kind of nuancing their discussion about, well, Ukrainians could win this now. Have you noticed that?
Oh, big time. My colleague Pete Blaber and I we do a podcast every week. He's former Delta Force commander at all levels, and where we have the same view of the world. And we've talked about that over and over. These generals that are captured by the blob, for lack of a better word, that want this war to continue. And this is NATO running this war. And this is, I think the U.S. has to look at our entire structure in Europe. I think Trump is doing that slowly. You're seeing a lot of moves. I think, was it this week he turned over something in NATO to the Europeans? I forget the exact title of the office, but that is a process that's going forward. I think it needs to move faster because I don't think they have our best interests in heart, and we don't want to be the backstop for their bad decisions in their warmongering. I mean, we could have a peace treaty. We could go in and say, this is the line. It's going to stay here. Maybe there's a little change on either side. Stop the fighting and let's work out a deal as to where the exact demarcation line is. I mean, that deal could be done, I think. But the problem is now you're getting strikes into Russia at very high value targets. The Russians are feeling it and they're getting angry. And so,
yeah, along with that strike on the bomber base, there's a refinery close to there, an oil refinery that's pretty dramatic amount of production when you look at the numbers.
Put yourself in Putin's place, or the people around him, the Praetorian Guard. They look at further and further strikes into Russia. They say we're winning on the ground in Ukraine. That is a fact. They just took Konstantinovka. I mean, they are moving forward, and Ukraine is not taking territory. They can't stop the Russian advance. So Ukraine is lashing out at high value targets inside of Russia. If you were the Kremlin military planners and you said, well, all these things are being made in Poland or the UK or Germany, we need to take these out. I mean, we're getting close to that point, and I don't want that. And I'm not pro-Russia. I'm just pro-reality. That's what's going to happen. And then you've got World War III, and that's why we can't be on the hook to support Europe for their bad decisions.
Yeah, last week, it was reported anyway that some type of Russian asset, I don't know if it was a drone, a cruise missile, or one of their medium-range ballistic missiles, hit Poland. It landed in Poland and detonated, I think. But it was in the field. It doesn't appear that it was targeted near anything substantial. And that's happened before. But when you have the dynamic of firing deep into Russia at strategic targets like the bomber bases and oil refineries, you combine that with, the Russian Navy ship in the Caspian Sea, that's a legitimate target. Even the Iranian cargo ship is kind of a legitimate target, especially from our perspective, if it was bringing Russian stuff there. But the Ukrainians aren't involved in the whole Iran thing, and mixing the two there and then combining it with the strategic thing, it just doesn't tell the truth about what's really happening. And you just did. I was going to ask you about what was still happening on the ground, and the Russians are still moving forward on the ground.
Yes.
I mean,
and
there's nothing stopping them.
You see a lot of stuff on social media of Ukrainians en masse saying, we're coming for Iran. And I mean, what they had built in Ukraine is a mercenary army. It's turning into a robot army in a big way. It's going to be a very dangerous thing sitting in the middle of Europe. I don't think it's going to be used for good. They've depopulated the Ukrainian. I mean, there's a video out this morning of the bounty hunters coming in to grab a guy in Dnipro, I think, and 3 women in the family come out to save him. They shoot one of the women. They run over the other woman with a car, and they pepper spray the 3rd one. I mean, this is what we're fighting for? This is what we're supporting? I mean, that is evil. So, there's no excuse for that. And so that is happening over and over and over. So you're literally depopulating the Christian population in Ukraine on both sides. And I think that's the end goal. And they're going to move in. It's going to be the first African European nation.
Yeah. And I had a question, but I lost it. The population in the Donbass, that's primarily Russian. They're not all Russian, but they primarily are. Yeah. Are those the majority, the young men? Are they being drafted into the army on the Russian side and fighting there? Or
there is
have they all been killed off already?
Well, I don't know the specifics in Donbass, but they are mobilized into the Russian forces, yes.
Okay.
And Putin has been very, I would say, cautious on the mobilization, because obviously that has societal impact. He's brought in North Koreans, he's brought in Africans, he's brought in mercenaries too. I'm not saying he's not doing that, but it's not the level that Ukraine is. Ukraine is running out of people. They literally don't have the manpower anymore. And I think that's intentional. So they're creating, ask yourself, if this massive army that wants a war with Russia, it can look westward too. I mean, if you look at what's going on with the EU with all the censorship and all this, you could make the case that they're building some kind of enforcement mechanism in Ukraine for the rest of Europe. So I just find it very, very dark.
Yeah, we're going to take a break, but when we come back, we're going to see a clip about the president canceling the Iran strikes. But I want to ask you a couple more questions about this Ukraine, especially the robotic autonomous force that we have just heard about being used. We'll be right back with Todd Wood, CEO of CDM Press.
Take a look at the water you just poured. It looks clean. It tastes fine. But what's really in it? Lead, fluoride, arsenic, chlorine, pesticides, PFAS forever chemicals, pharmaceutical residues, and bacteria. Every single day, these toxins flow straight from your tap into your glass, into your family. It's time for Sentry H2O from Worldview Water. Sentry H2O is the ultimate water treatment technology, designed to remove harmful toxins, balance your water's pH, and enrich it with essential minerals like calcium and magnesium, the way nature intended. From commercial-scale systems to whole-house filtration to crisp, delicious drinking water right at your kitchen sink and shower, Sentry H2O delivers cleaner, healthier water everywhere you need it. No plumber, no tools, no plumbing knowledge required. Perfect for homes, apartments, rentals, RVs, refrigerators, and more. Because everyone deserves access to clean, healthy water. Visit worldviewwater.net. That's worldviewwater.net.
President Trump is pausing massive strikes against Iran, at least for now, but the president cautions all this depends on how quickly a deal can be reached. ABC's Matt Rivers reports from Jordan tonight.
Tonight, President Trump backing away from the brink, calling off planned massive strikes on Iran. Overnight Saturday, posting on social media, saying he canceled the attack subject to being able to rapidly make a deal, adding the perimeters of a deal had been agreed to. A far different tone from Friday.
We'll be hitting them very hard. And, at some point they're going to say, we just can't take it anymore.
But Trump saying that Iran and regional U.S. allies alike had since asked him to hold off, claiming any deal would include reopening the Strait of Hormuz and address Iran's nuclear threat. But nearly 24 hours later, no formal response yet from Iran's government. An Iranian state-run media saying no such deal to reopen the strait had been reached. It remains effectively closed. Prior to Trump's announcement, Iranian media said the foreign minister had warned regional countries of harsh retaliation should the U.S. follow through on its threat to target Iranian energy facilities. After state-run oil facilities were targeted in a drone attack earlier this week, the renewed Iranian threat sparked Saudi Arabia's leadership to publicly urge the White House to de-escalate after Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman spoke to President Trump. Those fears include not just a wider war in the Middle East, but increasing signs that the conflict between Ukraine and Russia is starting to overlap with the Iran conflict. Last week, Ukraine attacking an Iranian cargo ship in the Caspian Sea it said was carrying military supplies.
Lindsay, many here in this part of the world assumed that they would spend today taking cover from new rounds of missiles being fired. That didn't happen, but it's still not at all clear that an actual deal between the two sides is within reach.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday, and August 3rd. And that video was from August 2nd, just so you know. My guest today is Todd Wood, CEO of CDM Press, just back from Lebanon. So we'll hear from him on that specific issue in the next segment. But, Todd, what are your thoughts on the president canceling the strikes again? It's just the second time, I think.
We don't have the land or ground forces to conquer Iran in a ground war. We just don't. I think we have to move to some kind of containment into phase 2 of this. We've heavily damaged them. Let's declare victory. Blockade the strait if you need to. Have escorts for ships if you need to. Keep it open. Keep the oil flowing. Build the pipelines across the desert. Make it less of a threat as far as oil, cutting off the oil, and contain them. We contained the Russians for 50 years or 80 years, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. The Soviet Union. So I think we need to move to something like that. We're not going to get a victory in the absolute sense here because, it's a very disorganized, decentralized government. And my sense is we need to support, as you and I have talked to many times, support the people on the ground that can actually make change in Iran. We know who they are. And let's just create the conditions for them to be successful. I think that's all we can do at this point. We can't have an absolute surrender. It's not going to happen, in my view.
I don't think that. I think that's why it was never one of the objectives.
Yeah,
as far
exactly.
as I know. I mean, it'd be nice to have. You and I've talked about that. It'd be nice to have. Mm-hmm. Have you heard about any? Let me pause right there on the Iran thing because I screwed up again, and I wanted to ask you about this report that I saw, but I couldn't confirm it, so I didn't use the video. I saw a video report of Ukrainian combat operation using a combination of robotic and autonomous surface vessels, subsurface vessels, air drones, that kind of thing. And then this new one that was added to it, ground combat robots. And the reporting that I saw said it was they were networked together, and the combat operation that they were involved in was successful from Ukraine's perspective. I couldn't verify anything, so I didn't use the video. But have you heard about that reporting? And have you been your team's pretty good at doing verification on things. Have you guys verified any of this stuff?
What I'll say is they are definitely testing and fielding all that stuff and building that capability. I don't know the specific instance you're talking about. I didn't see that, but that is definitely happening. And to me, that's a big concern because in my view, you've got a very dark regime. I mean, Zelensky's not an elected president. He has no legal mandate. He's destroying the Christian church. He's, depopulating the country. He's doing whatever the globalists tell him to do. Mm-hmm. And to give him some kind of AI autonomous robot army that is effective, to me, is insane. And also, while we're at it, I don't think any licensing of U.S. technology to Ukraine is a good idea either. Because, they could flip that, as Trump said, you could flip that back on you. What is the purpose of that? I mean, let's just back out of that. If Europe wants to continue it, let it have it. And if they want to deal with the consequences of that war, let them have it. But we're not going to come save you again for the third time because of your stupidity. And whatever this is, whatever dark agenda this is, it's not good for humanity.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought up the licensing thing. I thought I heard the president say we were going to license them to produce Patriot missiles. Is that accurate?
He said that. I think, look, there's a lot, and I talked with someone inside as well. There's a lot of, don't believe everything you hear. There's a lot of jockeying for position, and he may have said that. Then he said, well, there's a problem with giving people weapons. They could use them back on you. He's kind of being very strategic ambiguity there as well. I think he may have said, we'll think about it. And Zelensky came out and said, yeah, we're going to do it. So I don't think it's a done deal. I have heard from my sources that Boeing said no. So we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing a similar thing with the Turks and the F-35. Remember, folks, this is the P.T. Barnum of presidencies. That's who this man is. He's better than P.T. Barnum. So he made his sales pitch. Hey, we're going to give them the F-35 because they've done good. And then I saw a follow-up report almost immediately that said, yep, and they've got to do these things. Boom, get rid of the S-300, 400, not allow any Russian advisors on their soil, which are the things that I talked about when I first heard the report on this show and everything. So, I mean, that's just the way the president is. Getting back to the Iran war, look, I mean, regardless, fortunately, we've never set a goal of getting the Iranians to capitulate. The only way to stop this, I have said it many times, is the IRGC has to capitulate in one way or another. And the only way for us to achieve our ultimate strategic goal, which is to get the uranium, the enriched uranium, and the capability to enrich it out of their hands, so they can't develop or get a nuclear weapon, is for us to be able to go in and get it and get them to agree to do that. I mean, that's the only way. I mean, I think for a ground invasion of that country, it would take 1 million trigger pullers plus support. Yeah. So you're talking about a couple million people.
Exactly. And even if you put them on Karg Island, even if you put them on Karg Island, you're going to need more than just that, because you're going to have that whole coastline is a nest of vipers that you're going to have to deal with, and so that they would just be shooting targets. So you've got to really, that's got to be thought through, and I hope that doesn't happen. My vote is for containment and to find a way to declare a victory, and let's focus on the election and everything else.
Well, yeah, let's talk about that. What would that look like? I mean, we contained Saddam Hussein, with a northern and southern no-fly zone. So they couldn't attack the Kurds in the north and the Kuwaitis and the folks in the marshes south by air or ground. We stop them on the ground using our aircraft and those kind of things. Why not just establish a no-fly zone over the entire country?
Well, that's an option. Or, the Israelis have been very effective over the decades of taking out any arms coming into the country. We could target Chinese shipments coming in, or Russian shipments, or whatever. I mean, you could keep the country degraded militarily without, the deaths of thousands of Americans on the ground and the loss of much more treasure than we have to spend. So that's my vote for containment. And, I just think we're at that point. We need to look at the election. We need to look at rebuilding our stores, our stockpiles, our capabilities, which I know the Department of War is focused 1,000% on. So that's happening. And, let's get our house in order and be able to deal with other things that may come down the road. You and I are old enough to remember when we're ready to fight 2 wars at once. We're not that way anymore. We need to get back to that.
Yeah, we do need to get back to that. That's why the secretary is asking for another $500 billion to go along with the last year's defense budget. As much as I'm not a fan of increasing the defense budget, I'm more for cutting and make them make it work. But we're not to where we need to be in order to start doing that because we've let it go so long, right?
Yeah. And we're using all these, and this is changing too, but all these, high dollar prime contractors that, I saw something today, $3 billion over budget. I think it was the B-52 program. That doesn't need to happen anymore. We have smart contractors now that can build things cheaply in scale. That is happening. I know that's happening. So
Anduril said they were going to produce 7,000 low-cost cruise missiles in their first year of production. Next year. 7,000. We can't produce over 900 of regular cruise missiles.
And look at what Ukraine and Russia are doing. They're lobbing 600 a night at each other, different projectiles. So it's a numbers game, right? And we can't be spending millions of dollars on each one. Just can't happen.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we got a question in the audience. Let's go ahead and take that. Let's see if this technology will work this time. Go ahead, Joe.
We have Cat the Hammer, sir. I'll make it real quick. I just wanted to ask you both. Knowing that Trump's kind of an all or nothing kind of guy, at least he kind of comes across that way to me, do you think he would accept a 20 or 30-year complete cease on their nuclear program? I think it's good enough for containment. I agree with you. I just want to know what you guys thought.
I think he would. What do you think, Rob? I think he would.
I don't know. He's been really adamant, and it's part of the goals to remove the enriched uranium and the capability to enrich from them so they can never get a nuclear weapon. That's probably, in my mind, he will probably make that a red line. That has to be the red line because it's the most dangerous. It's the reason why we're there. The rest of it, they really can't threaten us, and we don't get any oil out of the Strait of Hormuz anymore like we did in the 80s and those kind of things. And now the allies are starting to build more pipelines so they don't have to use the what do they call it? The Arabian Gulf now? The Persian Gulf. The Persian Gulf to get oil out for the allies and those kind of things. So, I think he could let all that stuff go, and with a blockade and air containment, we could keep them, suppressed, obviously, and they couldn't threaten their neighbors other than just harassment type fires. Same thing with shipping. That's all they're doing now is just harassment type stuff. This whole thing about the Strait of Hormuz being closed is it's BS. It's not true. It's never been true. They don't have the capability. They didn't have the capability before, and they definitely don't have the capability now to close the Strait of Hormuz. But they can do harassing fire. And I think I would like to see before he pulls the plug on it, and we fall back to something like full blockades, and an air containment type thing. I would like to see him fulfill the entire ATO, the whole target list, at least once. And we've not
what
done
does that
that.
look
There's
like?
still a little about 20% left. That's all the strategic bridges, the big power plants, all of that has to be destroyed at least once, so they have to get to work to rebuild the stuff, and those kind of things to keep them busy. But in the meantime, the blockade and keeping the bridges around the perimeter cut, blocking the Caspian seaport, those kinds of things, so that they can't be resupplied with military stuff. I think that's doable. Now, is it politically doable? That's another big question. It would be if he gets the nuclear material.
Yeah.
If he gets it, it would be politically doable in the short term. Let's put it that way. Short term being a few years.
Yeah.
So, give the allies a chance to do what they need to do to make themselves comfortable before we completely pull out, because there's a lot of us that have been calling for a pullout of the Middle East for quite some time now. The only thing stopping us right now is the Iran war, to be honest with you.
Yeah, that's true.
We're going to take another break. When we come back, we'll talk about Lebanon. And Todd's been there for, on a trip. So we'll be right back with Todd Wood.
At a certain age, you stop chasing younger. You start protecting what helps you feel steady, strong, and well. Your body's collagen matters. It supports the structure of your skin, joints, and connective tissue. But as the years go by, your body needs more support from the inside. That's where Bella Grace Elixir comes in. Bella Grace Elixir combines Verisol collagen, the world's most clinically proven collagen, with Asterial astaxanthin and cat's claw in a proprietary blend designed to help support the processes that reconstruct collagen, while also offering antioxidant and anti-inflammatory effects. And this isn't just for women. It's for men and women who want to age with more confidence, more care, and a daily wellness routine that supports the body from within. One simple elixir, thoughtfully formulated for whole body wellness. Take care of the body that has carried you this far. Order Bella Grace Elixir today at melissahousebg.com.
The Israeli military has said that it has killed several Hezbollah fighters in southern Lebanon and that an Israeli soldier was injured there despite a ceasefire being in place. Well, in a statement, the military said that it identified Hezbollah fighters inside what Israel describes as a security zone and carried out strikes to, quote-unquote, remove the threat. The statement added that the Israeli forces will continue to operate to remove any threat to its soldiers, and it will not allow the Hezbollah to arm Israeli civilians. This comes at a time when United Nations has expressed concerns over Israeli actions. The Office of the UN Special Coordinator for Lebanon said that the scale of the detonations and demolitions taking place is deeply concerning, with a devastating impact on civilian infrastructure, cultural heritage, and the collective memory of communities. This after the Israeli military carried out large detonations near a UNESCO-listed castle in Lebanon. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's and Defense Secretary Israel Katz said that the army destroyed terror tunnels in the Beaufort area using approximately 700 tons of explosives. Beaufort Castle was added last week to UNESCO's list of World Heritage in danger. A US-sponsored framework agreement signed by Lebanon and Israel in late June. It aims to end hostilities with Lebanon's army to disarm Hezbollah and the Israeli military to withdraw from pilot zones inside Lebanon, where Lebanese forces will subsequently deploy. Hezbollah has repeatedly rejected the deal and refuses to disarm, while there is no timetable for Israel's full withdrawal.
Welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. My guest today is former Special Ops helicopter pilot, president and CEO of CDM Press, Todd Wood, and a frequent traveler to parts of the world most Americans wouldn't go right now. And you just spent some time in Lebanon. Todd, tell us about your trip first before we dive into the clip about the recent going on.
Sure. We are working closely with the Christian population in Lebanon, the Christian sector, which is, in my view, very important to, and we started this just to kind of be their bully pulpit to talk about their issues because nobody really is. And the U.S. has been a little bit nefarious toward them over the last few decades, too, because they've been used as buffer zones or whatever. Nobody's really looking out for their interests. And so that's what we're doing. We're opening a media company over there. We're going to have a new online entity, mainly for the Lebanese diaspora, because there's 15 million of them. And weirdly enough, they can all vote in Lebanese politics. It's a huge thing. And so that's what we're working on. And that's why I was there. In addition to meeting a lot of people and sources and all of that. And so my main goal over there is to, I guess, be a mouthpiece for that population, not in a foreign agent kind of way, but just as a good reporting kind of way. Just be there and talk about what's going on the ground on those with that community and the issues around it. Hezbollah to the south is very ensconced, and we also need to understand the history, right? History is important. And Lebanon has always been a refuge for minority communities. And that's why the Christians came there in the mountains, Mount Lebanon, to get away from the invading Arab armies, and then the Ottomans and all of that. And it was kind of but the Shia Muslims also came in there. And so you have that sector, but you also have the Hezbollah element, which is, an Iranian proxy army, obviously, in the south. And so it's a very complicated situation, and the Lebanese government simply doesn't have the power to disarm them. They just don't. It's 40% of the Lebanese armed forces. So the U.S., in my view, instead of knocking down the Christian community over and over and over again, like for instance, during the Gulf War, Bush 1 came in and said, we'll let Syria come invade you if you join us against Saddam. Well, we didn't need Syria to join us against Saddam. I mean, it was nice, I guess, on paper, but the Christian community just got thrown under the bus. So that's if we focus on them and make them a lot stronger, I think we will find a solution in Lebanon, because I think they will be able to work with the Shia elements in country, because they're not going away either. And there's a lot of Syrian and Sunni, Shia and Sunni refugees from Syria in Lebanon that need to go home. That's another thing the U.S. could do, is bring them back into Syria. The Syrian war's over, but there's a lot of NGOs keeping them there. I mean, it's very similar to what's happening in Europe and in the U.S., where in the Christian areas, you're having an enabled immigrant population come in and then paid for and all of that. So it's very, I see it as diabolical. So my goal is to really just, if you can empower that community in Lebanon, I think you'll see a good, strong Christian community in the U.S., in the Middle East, and that will open doors, in my opinion, to solve some of these problems.
Yeah, historically, Lebanon was the only majority Christian country for many, many centuries.
Correct.
And then the Palestinian refugees were allowed to come in.
That was the
beginning
that's what started.
of the end, right? They
brought in 500,000, and that started the Civil War, and it was downhill from there. And then you had the explosion in the Beirut port, which many think was intentional by some group. And then you have a color revolution in 2019 with George Soros to destroy the financial sector and the currency and the central bank. And so it's been an ongoing series of attacks on them. And I think the best thing the U.S. could do is step up and say, this is where Christ walked. This is the first Christians. These are the descendants. We're going to make sure they stay in the Levant.
So Lebanon's government, the president, I think he's a Christian and a combat veteran, wounded even, if I remember right. He's signed up to replacing Hezbollah in the south, but he doesn't have the capability to do that. How does he do that? Oh, I think we might have lost him. Mr. Producer, can you hear me? Yeah, we'll see if we can get it back. Did you answer that question? I mean, that's been the rub, folks, for the whole time I was in the U.S. military, all the way from when the U.S. went in with Marines and we got a bunch of people killed in the Bekaa Valley in Beirut. We've had military officers kidnapped and skinned alive by these people, Christians, persecuted and those kind of things. So, Todd, you're back. Hey, I was asking you a question. The question was, the president of Lebanon, he's a combat veteran. I think he's even been wounded. So he understands military force. He gets it. He has signed up to replacing Hezbollah in the south. But how does he do that if he doesn't have the capability?
We need to help that capability. And sorry, we have some construction going on, and we had some power blinking out here, so that's what happened. But I think the U.S. needs to support the Lebanese military. We really don't They don't have the capability to disarm them at this point. It's kind of like baby steps. There's 2 areas that the Israelis are going to withdraw from, and the Lebanese forces are going to go in and try to pacify those areas. I think there's a deal to be made, especially with Iran in a much weakened state. You see this with, the deal with Hamas in Gaza. I mean, that there may be some progress there. It's a little hard to tell, but you could see a similar situation in the Levant, and I hope that can happen. But yes, Joseph Aoun is a combat veteran, and I know a lot of those veterans. In fact, I was staying in Beirut, and the houses and buildings are very close together, and the one right across my balcony was pockmarked with bullet holes from the Civil War. So it's very fresh in people's minds, and it was devastating for the Christian community.
Yeah, and I don't think the regular Lebanese people hate the Israelis either.
No, they don't.
I've never understood why the Israeli haven't been able to bring their capabilities to bear to help the Lebanese army too, because I mean they have every inch of that southern place up to the river at least and beyond. I'm sure mapped, so to speak, and everything's both above the ground and underground. I think they have a lot of mapping.
Yes, of course.
What and they have struck an agreement with the Lebanese government. Any hope that that's going to be there? Because I think they're better than us in the human
they
intelligence
have a very
world
good
and that
intelligence, very good intelligence network. I mean, Lebanon is not a sovereign country. I mean, I was there, and I put it on X a few times. There's an Israeli drone flying overhead the whole time I'm there. Eating dinner outside the cafe. I mean, they're surveilling constantly. So it is. The Israelis have the capability. I think there needs to be a way to give sovereignty to Lebanon, but also deal with the threats militarily. I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but I do know that strengthening the Christian community is a big part of that. Because you're right, they're not anti-Israel per se. They don't want to be used as a buffer zone and to accept like another million refugees. It's going to harm their demographics and their power structure in the country. But they're not anti-Israel, as a rule.
You mentioned the Sunni and Shia refugees from Syria. I would think that al-Jilani, the new president of Syria, would want to get those folks back and strengthen his population.
This is a big issue, and this is what the Lebanese are worried about. I'll tell you right now, there's 2 million Sunni refugees from Syria in Lebanon because of the Syrian civil war that were fleeing the Assad regime. They're paid to stay there. They don't want to go back. Lebanon's a beautiful, very nice, sophisticated, nice place for the most part. And so they don't want to go back. And one of the big things the U.S. could do is say, you're going back. We kind of control Golani, I think, or al-Shura, or whatever his name is. But yes, you would think he would want those people back. And the Lebanese are very worried about that because like a lot of the Latins and other immigrant communities in the U.S., the Shia and the Sunni are embedded throughout all Lebanese society, cutting the grass, doing things that need to be done. And because a lot of them are on the dole or whatever. And so it's a big problem. They're scared that it's essentially a jihadi network in country that needs to be returned to Syria. And I hope
so does Hezbollah recruit from these Shia refugee populations? I'm assuming Hezbollah is mostly Shiite.
I'm told that's a spy network, right?
Yeah.
Because if you've got Shia throughout the communities doing, embedded in the Christian community, because Christians have all the money, right? Because they're successful, they're entrepreneurial. The other populations don't. Now, that's not a hard and fast rule. There are some very big oligarchs in the Shia and Sunni communities in Lebanon, but for the most part, the Christians are the ones that are economically self-reliant and successful. So yes, they're worried about that as kind of a spy network throughout their whole community as well.
Yeah. You don't think that there's going to be any plans to put like U.S. peacekeeping forces in place? I mean, the UN's tried that stuff in southern Lebanon for decades now. It's an absolute failure. I mean, Hezbollah puts their capabilities underneath their foxholes.
Yeah, it's. I hope we are smart enough to not do that anymore. Look, you mentioned it. The Christian, they're fighters. I mean, they're fine with protecting themselves. You just got to make them stronger and stop trying to weaken them. and stop trying to weaken their economy. Because you've seen, if you look back through history, in the 70s, there was no problem with a lot of this stuff when you had a strong Christian community. So you moved back to that. When you started weakening the Christians, that's when all this other stuff started happening. So
Absolutely.
my sense is, if you can make that community stronger, keep them in the structure of power in the government that is, you don't have to give all the power to them, but keep them in a majority, power position, then I think a lot of good things will happen.
Yeah, I think so. It's just a matter of, we just have to do it. Have to get it done. All right, we got to take one more break. When we come back, we'll see a little clip on the way back in of the Egyptian port where a U.S. gas holding platform was struck along with an Egyptian LNG, liquefied natural gas transport ship. They think by a drone. We'll be right back with Todd Wood.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week, or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed.
When yesterday we saw the headlines that something has been hit in the port of Damietta, which is on the Mediterranean, I mean, the first reaction was like, it's too far away from the conflict zone. It's far away from Iran. It's far away from Yemen. It's far away, quite honestly, from many places in the battle zone. But the significance of this development is immense. What was happening in the past 6 months when the US attacked Iran and Iran retaliated was that the military actions have shut the Strait of Hormuz. The Strait of Hormuz in the Gulf is the world's most important oil evacuation route. It is responsible for roughly 17% of global oil supply. Saudi Arabia was preparing for this crisis for many, many years, if not decades. Because Saudi Arabia strategically has built a pipeline towards the Red Sea. So Saudi Arabia was able to reroute oil to the port of Yanbu on the Red Sea. And from there, it was sending tankers down south to supply Asian clients via the very narrow Bab el-Mandeb Strait. Now, the problem became even bigger when the Houthis said they would join the fight, attack Saudi Arabia, and we've seen drones and missiles being fired at various tankers in Bab el-Mandeb. As a result, the only safe route Saudi Arabia was left with was to send oil up north in the Red Sea towards the Suez Canal in Egypt. So yesterday attack on the port Damietta is very, very close to the Suez Canal. So everyone in the oil market has been asking, what does it mean for the Suez Canal? And of course, we've seen insurance and shipping rate spikes. Everyone's concerned that the next target might be the Suez.
The Rob Maness Show. It's More War Monday. We're live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. And my guest today is CEO of CDM Press and a former Special Operations helicopter pilot, Todd Wood. Todd, Damietta, I don't think a lot of people really understand this, but Damietta is a port on the Mediterranean Sea in Egypt. It's not in the Suez Canal, and it's not in the Red Sea, and it's well beyond where the Houthis have been. So whatever hit this platform and that ship had to get past a lot of air defense capability.
They're do we know it was a projectile, or could it have been on a ship or something?
We don't know. I mean, it's very fuzzy reporting. The Iranians, I couldn't find anything where they had taken responsibility, but they were getting a lot of blame for it. Yeah.
Well,
the drone reports is what I kept coming across when I was researching. Something happened.
Interesting. I mean, if you talk with all the Promethean Action people, they think that there's a much bigger conflict going on here of really redrawing a lot of the financial and resource allocation zones and routing across the world. So it could be part of that. I mean, I don't know a lot about that situation. I do know that, you could even make a cause. And whoever's doing all this is thinking long term. You look at the port explosion in Beirut. I mean, I don't think that was organic. I mean, it was obviously, they say it was due to some ammonium nitrate in the harbor, but there was a lot of funky stuff going on with that, beforehand. So, and I know other stuff. So I don't think that was organic. So, there is an agenda. I'm not quite sure what it is, but things are changing as far as who gets access to what and how it's moved. That I can tell you.
Yeah, and that stretch of strategic movement spots all the way from the Med out through the Bam Dala Beb. I messed up the pronunciation. The strait down where the Yemen is and Somaliland. I mean, that's coming under increasingly threat. The Houthis fired on a couple of Saudi ships and say they're going to blockade the Saudis from reaching their ports, and those kind of things. Well, we got a question in the audience. Let's take that since we're in the last segment. Go ahead, Bill.
We have AJ, sir.
Thank you, Shell. Thank you, Colonel. Mr. Wood, it's always a pleasure, sir. My question pertains to Islamic Republic of Iran. They are known to lose $500 million a day, and this is a massive financial bleeding. Desperate times call for desperate measures, and my fear is that this is going to push them to try to purchase a nuclear capability in the context of tactical nukes. What is the reality if you can contribute to this concern? That I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, I think that's a possibility. I mean, I wouldn't put it past the Iranians. I think the president obviously knows a lot more than we do, and has probably taken all of those possibilities into account with what he's doing. The Khan network out of Pakistan is, shut down, but I'm sure there are other avenues. The Chinese are supplying them with, man pads essentially, which can be very effective against civilian aircraft, against our aircraft. So that is where the intelligence comes in, and I simply don't have my TSSCI clearance anymore, so I don't know. But I hope that I hope the president knows what's going on there and would deal with it. What do you think, Rob?
Yeah, you forgot. Well, you didn't forget, but you didn't mention the North Koreans too. So they're friends with 4 nuclear powers, I believe. The Russians, the Chinese, the Pakistanis, and the North Koreans. As far as I know, I mean, this is just all open source stuff. I don't have an SCI clearance anymore either, or anything else for that matter that would relate to this stuff. But all of those entities have gone in and out of Iran. And of all of the ones that I would not put it past them, it would be Pakistan or the North Koreans.
That's what I was going to say. The Russians and the Chinese wouldn't do that, but it's possible. I would say primarily some type of Arab route or Central Asian route. That would be my guess if that did happen.
Yeah, we got to remember the Pakistanis hid Osama bin Laden in a villa a stone's throw away from their national military academy. Fortunately for the Pakistanis, the nuclear side of their operation has been kept in. I wouldn't say they're completely non-religious hands, but they're not in Islamic fundamentalist hands. Their nuclear forces are not, at least so far, anyway. But the land route from Pakistan via Afghanistan and into Iran is famously difficult to surveil, difficult to defend. I mean, we owned the airspace there, and we could not stop them from resupplying through those mountains consistently down into the Taliban and the Al Qaeda network, the Haqqani network, and all that. I mean, because they're using mules, a lot of them, and backpacks. They walk. You know?
Sure. It's
They
very
don't
helpful, very
carry.
difficult.
They don't carry a cell phone with them. You can track their signal every day. You know, they have some capability, but you got to be looking for it to find their signals. You know, and the terrain is just massive terrain. I've flown in it day and night at low altitude and high speed, and it's just very, very challenging. I don't think most people understand, Todd, that don't study this stuff and aren't professionals in it, just how challenging the Earth is as a system, as a machine. You know, from the weather, obviously the climate change nets think that man's activities can affect the weather systems.
And flying low level, you know, at night in the mountains in bad weather is a young man's game.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is a young man's game. But it's like finding a needle in the haystack unless you've got like a spy sitting on the guy that's carrying the backpack with the bomb in it.
Sure.
You know, because that's literally what they would have to do, and the capabilities are there around the world. So is it possible? Yeah, they're fanatics. I don't think they'll ever stop trying to get a nuclear bomb of some sort. The question is, do they have them now? Where they just hadn't been able to mate it to deliver a reliable delivery system that was accurate enough for them, and we disrupted it, or are they going to buy one, or are they planning on buying one from North Korea and transiting it through Pakistan and Afghanistan? There's a lot of big questions in that, but they're all possible to do.
Sure. Yeah, I don't think there's any doubt about that. Of course.
Yeah. So with this hit on the LNG platform, the U.S. one, and the tanker out there, the Egyptian tanker, the Houthis have never fired anything from their range past Israel that I'm aware of. Have they ever been?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. They would be the likely source, but other than any other kind of ingress route, you know.
I'm more devious than that. See, I think it's probably a container, either at a dock, or on a ship, somewhere close enough where it would be underneath all the radar.
I would think you're probably right. Yeah.
Because these things are just so easy. That's the other thing. What's your take, real quick, before we get to the end of the last minute here? What's your take on our drone capability? It's been about, I think, probably 6 or 7 months since we talked about that, or our drone defense capability. Have we seen any improvements in actuality on the ground in the combat zones, or are we still pretty much where we were at?
I think we're playing catch up. Unfortunately, since the lawsuit with the New York Times and the Pentagon Press Corps, we haven't been able to get in the building for months now. And so we're kind of frozen out. So I haven't had the same kind of access to people as I did before. So my sense is, though, we're catching up and building new capabilities, but we're still probably, in the catch up mode.
Yeah.
That's kind of where I'm thinking.
Is there any news on the lawsuit thing? I thought that there was a decision that turned
there
that over.
was, but I haven't. The Pentagon went quiet. I used to get 50 emails a day. I might get 1 or 2 now. I think they just said, well, until we've resolved this, and I have credentials, but I can't even go into buildings. So unless I'm escorted. So, it just doesn't, there's no briefings. They shut down the room that we've worked in.
Okay.
So it's kind of been quiet, and there's no trips. I flew out with Hexeth, that shut down too. It's unfortunate.
It is unfortunate because there was some good reporting going on that people were starting to get confidence back, both in the institution and in the institution of the press that was being allowed to do their business. Well, Todd, I appreciate it. hopefully they'll overcome that soon. But I just got reports before we came on the air that the war plan for Iran was leaked. That's the real reason why the president delayed any operation. But we'll see how whether that turns out to be true or not. It's not verified.
Interesting.
Todd Wood, folks. Thanks, my friend. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Tell your audience, go to cdm.press, put us in your scan. It would help us a lot. Thank you very much.
All right. You bet. He's got a lot of international and domestic media publications, cdm.press. Go check it out. Thanks to Todd Wood. And tomorrow, Joshua Lysick, who is an author of Unhumans, and he's got a new book out because he's from Ohio, and he's writing on the Haitian that were placed there in Springfield, Ohio. This is going to be really the heat interview. I'll see you then.